John chapter 15, verse 1. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. This is the last of the 7 I am statements. There is still going to be the one mention of I am, but that is just in the Garden of Gethsemane when they come to capture Jesus or arrest him, and he asked him, "What were you searching for?" And he said, "Jesus of Nazareth," and he is like, "I am," and then as a result fell down. Okay, so that's a different I am. That's not one of the I am statements, the 7 ones, because it's the same as with the one before Abram was I am, right? It's a different because of how it is stated. I've mentioned this before. I am, like in this case, I am I am the true vine. My Father's a vine dresser, or I am the way, the truth, and life, or I am the bread of life. I'm the door, or whatever. I am. So it follows always by some other noun. Understand me, right? It's not just the end of something. Okay, actually, not I am something, right? Now, so what is the significance of? Now, sure, there's this context here. There's a specific context in this chapter, which is the reason why Jesus is using this as an example of him being the true vine and the Father's the vine dresser, because he's going to be speaking about those in him bearing fruit and those not bearing fruit. But at the same time, this is an allusion or a point back towards what happened before, right? Because the original readers would know the Old Testament very well, and they would know and understand that as Israel is very often compared to a vine, right? And the Father working with it. So, for example, in Isaiah chapter 5, we see this whole song for the vineyard, right? Where he said, "Let me sing for my beloved, my love song concerning his vineyard, my beloved at the vineyard, and a very fertile hill, which ultimately here is God. He dug it and cleared it of his stones and planted his choice vines. He built a watchtower in the midst of it and hewed out the wine fat in it and looked for it to yield grapes, but it yielded wild grapes." Okay, so that allusion, and it plays into what Jesus is saying here, right? And then there is as well from Jeremiah chapter 2, this idea of the vine dresser. Okay. Jeremiah 2:21. "Yet I planted you a choice vine, wholly of pure seed. How then have you turned degenerate and became a wild vine?" Okay, so here God as well, the one who planted this choice vine, and speaking of Israel. Okay, so again, he's the vine dresser, the one planting, like in Isaiah, like here. So clearly the vine is being that God took them out of Egypt, planted them in this good soil, prepared and did everything for them, but they ultimately turned into the food they produced, or the fruit, not fruit they produced was useless. Okay, so those are kind of allusions to the idea of being of God, in that case, being the vine dresser, right? But in this case, now in this verse, it says not God as the vine dresser, but the Father is the vine dresser. So in other words, if there God is the vine dresser, and here the Father is the vine dresser, then God equals Father. So Jesus is saying that the Father is, and that would be then the Father in that sense as well. Okay, and him being the true vine. Now they would have been like, they were the vine. Okay, they were the vine that God took from Egypt. They were the vine that God planted in Israel, and they were the ones who were bearing fruit. Now, all of a sudden, it's not they that's the vine anymore, not the Israel, not the country, not the people. Sorry, not the country, never ever, anyhow, but Jesus. And that's not new as well. Out of Egypt I've called my son, where in the Old Testament that alludes to, that's Israel, and in the New Testament that's Jesus. Okay, so clearly again, Jesus is the true Israel. Okay, and now, sorry, dispensationalists, but you can't have your bread and have it buttered on both sides, kind of idea. Okay, either Jesus is a true Israel, or Israel is a true the nation, the Jews in today is a true Israel. You can't have it both. Okay, now the New Testament, Jesus, like in this case as well, Jesus, not they, Jesus is the true vine. Okay, so these kinds of things for the original readers would not have maybe had such a huge impact on the disciples at that stage, because that was not really such a big thing for them in a certain sense, right? They could accept something like that, but the original readers, the original readers, that is the Jewish leadership, they would have been very shocked by this. So now for them, after the fact, because they were not present there at the Last Supper, understandably so for them, after the fact to hear this would have been a huge thing. Okay, it would have been like, what the heck is this guy thinking of? We are the vine, not he. He can't be the vine. We as a nation is the vine. So how will all of a sudden is he speaking of himself as being the vine? And the Father, the vine dresser, like there is God and us, and now it's he and the Father. Okay, and so that would have made them super angry. So those illusions is as well at play here, and you need to understand those illusions as well to understand, or the context of that and the meaning of that, to understand as well the question in this chapter concerning who is cut off, right? Who is ultimately not bearing fruit? Who is thrown out? Because otherwise you're going to draw conclusions concerning you can lose your salvation, and then that is going to clearly contradict what Jesus said, no one can snatch it off my hand kind of idea. Okay? Now, if you understand the Old Testament allusions, then these verses here would make sense. Otherwise, they're not going to make real sense to you. Okay, so let's see what Jesus then is going to, and how he's going to use here this concept that he is the vine, and what does that mean, and what does it mean for the branches.